Hello everyone, this is part 8 of What If Naruto Gained Ashura's Memories, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Minato stared. For a moment his brain stopped working, trying to process all that had been revealed. His mind was an emptiness for a second. Impossible, yet, it was somehow still possible. Naruto was his son. Yet, Naruto was also someone else's son. And Sasuke too, Mikoto's and Fugaku's son. Yet, also someone else's son at the same time. And being that someone else's son, made them brothers, too. Real brothers, brothers by B, sharing the same parents, not just brothers by oath, as he suspected them to be now. And that someone else was Therakudo Sennin himself. He had thought the man had just been a legend, and here he sat, on the plateau behind the monument, with his son and almost son, who were the reincarnations of said legendsons. Indra and Ashura Otsutsuki. Those were the names they'd carried in their first life. Ha! How strange did that sound? Progenitors of the Uchiha and the Senju, Uzumaki clans Hissen, but he was also Hissen's sister. Just how much more messed up could this be? Kami-sama above. He was almost scared to voice his question. But, he had to know. Which names do you use, then? Sasuke arched an eyebrow in a regal fashion. Sasuke and Naruto, of course. Those were the names we were given, no. Yes, we remember a different life, every part of it, the happy, the sad, the B parts. But we live in the present, not the past, Hokage-sama. The past should stay where it is. Naruto said. There has been enough bloodshed between the families for the mistakes we had made and continued making, in fact. For after that first time, there have been countless other lives, reincarnation, transmigration. Whichever suits your tastes. There's always been one of our B, who carried a spark of our chakra, all our beliefs. And because then we and those who had been chosen, could never agree, the war turned B and B. Who were those people? Hashirama asked carefully. Those like you, I mean. Sasuke's black eyes flashed with amusement. Hundreds of years had passed. Countless of those names are now meaningless. While those shinobi had been legends of their own, who have reshaped the world with their power and beliefs, as myself and my brother had, time dulls truths. Truths are lost and ignored. Why, do you think no Senju or Uchiha ever remembered that they had once been cousins? Or why no Uzumaki or Senju remember that they had once been siblings? But, Naruto hummed, I think, one pair of names would stand out for you. A pair, who were like us, powerful, their beliefs shaping and changing the world into what it is today. A pair, who while achieved more than most, was separated by the very same thing that had brought them together in the first place. Their beliefs and a dream of a peaceful world. And who were those two? His grandfather asked. That was another thing. Getting used to the fact that he had a family, a clan, and that legendary shinobi, like Tobirama and Hashirama, were his family. Minato looked at the boys with a raised eyebrow. Both of them seemed vaguely amused. Asura's chakra had been attached to Senju Hashirama. Sasuke said. There was a heartbeat of silence. Nani? The Shodaime exclaimed, his eyes wide. Minato was sure the entire village heard that, and now everyone was wondering, just what the hell was going on up here. Naruto chuckled. Take a guess who carried Indra's will at the time. Madara, his grandfather said, his tone calm, matter of fact. It was Uchiha Madara. Naruto nodded approvingly towards the Nadai. Correct. You mean, we, Madara and I. Hashirama made a few clumsy hand gestures. All this was your work. Naruto shook his head with a small snort. No, you're still you. What you've achieved side by side is Alia and Madara's work, not mine or my brother's. What you did is history for us, as it is for everyone from this time. Actually, everyone lived their lives normally and did things as they would have happened anyway, reincarnation or not. It just drew those two individuals closer to one another, creating a sort of odd link, other than the B, between the Senju and Uchiha. Minato sighed, rubbing his face. I'm kind of lost, he admitted. He may have been called a genius, but this was a bit too much to wrap his mind around. He hadn't even dealt with the fact that his son had lived once before this, and now they were adding more information to the pile. Ashura was Hashirama, Sasuke said calmly. But Hashirama was never Ashura. Ashura is Naruto, but at the same time, Naruto is Ashura. It's the same with me. Does that make sense? It does, Tobirama said slowly. In an odd way, but it does make sense. Minato groaned, running a hand through his hair. His head hurt. All the kami above, his son and Sasuke, were harder to deal with than Kushina and his former genin team combined. Maybe there was something good about dying when he did. If he were alive, then half his hair would be missing by now and the remaining half would have turned gray with stress. Sasuke watched the three Senjus with barely contained amusement. Their expressions were so much like his brother's that he needed all his self-control not to break down laughing. Still, he couldn't help the amused smirk that made itself known. What's so funny? The Yondaime asked. Sasuke shook his head. Nothing. He stood up as he felt Gaara's chakra shift. It's just that you three are so much like Ashura and Naruto at once, that it's entertaining. At the same time, you are so different than him, that I can barely believe you're his family. Oi, Nisama, Naruto huffed. He looked at the blonde and rolled his eyes, turning towards Gaara, who was now on his feet, studying him curiously, yet still unsure. Probably because of the Hokage's presence. So, how are you feeling? Gaara smiled. Better. Much better. My chakra is off, but it's going to be off for Abbott. Naruto said apologetically. The different seal needs more of your chakra to hold and it allows less of Shukaku's own chakra to mix with yours. In short, your chakra control is S. So you'll have to relearn that. Gaara looked suitably horrified at that. What? Sasuke patted his shoulder. It's a headish Ototo's gone trough as well, considering we had to change the fox's seal, too. You'll manage. Gaara gave Asmal scowl. Says the one who's lived twice and literally invented ninjutsu. Sasuke grimaced at that. I see Shukaku told you a few things. My invention of ninjutsu is not something I'm proud of. Considering how much we and later everyone twisted ninja for their own means, I don't think it's something to be proud of. You invented ninjutsu? The Nadaime asked with a raised eyebrow. Sasuke nodded. Yeah, and Ashura was the one to lay the foundations of chakra healing. Any more mind-blowing information? Sasuke shook his head. That's all, I suppose, Minato-sama. Did we miss something, Ototo? I don't think so. Now, how about you two sitting down? Well, Minato stood up. I think we'll be leaving you three to speak for Abbott. We'll have to check the village anyway. Since there is no official Hokage, it's either the council grabbing for more power, or the village will end up like headless chickens. So we'll step up, temporarily. And then we'll have to find someone to become the Godime. What happened to the Senju? Tobirama asked, looking at Naruto. Naruto shrugged. Hadn't asked the Sandaime. Hadn't been that close, and after graduation we became kind of busy. Know that the only other Senju left is Tsunade, but she hadn't set foot in the village since Oto-san and Oka-san in the ceiling. Suddenly, both of the Senju brothers looked thunderous. Tsunade left family behind. An orphan at that. The Shodai asked. What had become of my sweet girl? Abandoning family. The Nadai glared at his brother. See, he told you that spoiling the girl will come and bite you back someday. And all that spoiling, you and Mito coddled her and now she turned her back to the village. Her family. Naruto frowned. Yeah, I have some issues with the people left of my family. My godfathers just turned up a month ago and sauntered into Namika's property, as if he'd owned the place, and when he dumped in on my head that he was in fact my godfather, he expected me to welcome him with a hug and a pat on the back. You hadn't known that Jiraiya sensei was your godfather? Naruto looked at his father and shook his head. No, I only had Sasuke for a very long time. Oh, and the ANBU, who guarded us. Kakashi and Yamato among them, who are now our senseis. So the four of us are a little misfit family. And add the grumpy fox too. He's actually helpful, after he got over Indra's betrayal. We needed to have a long chat with him, but it's worth it. One more sibling along for the ride, he grinned. Sibling? The Shodime asked. Sasuke hummed. Of course. The Biju are our older siblings. He looked at Gaara, which kind of makes the other 8 Jinchuriki our family, too. Oh, and the Kaguya of Kiri and the Hyuga too. Hamura Oji-sama's daughters, after all, were the progenitors of those clans. I need a drink, the Shodai murmured. For once, I agree with you, Anya. The Yondaime seemed the worst off, and were he alive, Sasuke would have said to visit a hospital. I need more than one drink, and a few blows of ramen. Lead the way, the Mokuton user murmured. Sasuke doubted that the resurrected people could get drunk, but he decided not to mention it. The three seemed to be in a bad shape anyway. Once the three Senju were gone, Gaara looked at them a bit uncertainly. What you just said, did you mean it? About family. Naruto smiled brightly, his grin rivaling the sun. Of course he meant it. The Biju are all siblings. So their Jinchuriki are also our family, he said, reaching forwards to hug Gaara. Gaara's eyes went wide. I never really had a family, despite having a father and siblings. My father just wanted a weapon and my siblings fear me, like everyone else in Suna, he muttered. Sasuke frowned at that. Ashura had been his greatest treasure in his first life, and even now Naruto was no less important. Despite everything that happened, they were still brothers. There was no greater treasure in the world than a sibling. So it was hard for him to comprehend how Gaara's own siblings could fear him so much to alienate him. He patted the redhead on the shoulder to comfort him, but Naruto had different ideas. The blonde pulled at his garments and he lost his balance despite sitting down, and they ended up on the grass, like a ball of tangled limbs. Naruto laughed. Big family hug? He asked sheepishly. Sasuke glared, and for a moment, the thought of strangling him appeared in his mind. But then, Gaara chuckled. Sasuke shifted his gaze, and for a second, he saw the loneliness in his eyes. The same loneliness he'd seen in Naruto during the early days of the academy. Shukaku was their sibling. And now, so was Gaara. His lips twitched upwards, as he brought both of them into a short hug. Yeah, family. And Otsutsuki never leave their own behind. Family. Gaara muttered, thank you. Thank you both. If the redhead's grip was a bit stronger, then it was comfortable, neither him nor Naruto voiced it. Now that the questioning of his siblings was over, he could see them again and, thanks to the word of the Shodai, all three of them could go home. Gaara was glad that he could go back to Suna, but at the same time, he was afraid of leaving. Days had passed, and even those short few days were interesting, and a time he would forever cherish. Naruto and Sasuke, or maybe Asura and Indra, he still couldn't decide which names would be more appropriate to use, had showed him what it was like to have people who didn't fear him. They also spent time with the Biju, which helped him build the start of something nice with Shukaku. He's also learned that Kurama was the Kyuubi's proper name. Naruto had mentioned it once during the mess, but then, it had not made much sense. He stopped before the door, which separated him from Temari and Kankuro. He was a bit unsure, his relationship with them had never been the best. And now he feared what they would think of him. They're your siblings, Sasuke said. And no matter what happens, your siblings always stand by you. No matter how cold and distant you were with them, or how much of an idiot. Whichever the case. Gaara took a deep breath and stole a glance at the Uchiha. Are you sure? Sasuke gave a small snort. I think, I will know it better than most. Gaara hummed. True, I suppose, he muttered. It was strange to think that two who were around his age were also technically older than him. Much, much older. But the wisdom and power which came with that age suited both Naruto and Sasuke strangely well. He carefully wrapped his hand around the knob for practice and opened the door. Oh, it'll be annoying to train his chakra control again, but at least he could now sleep at night, like every other normal parent. He stepped in and the two followed quietly behind him, lingering near the door to give him and his siblings space, yet still be near, just as he'd asked them. Neither Temari nor Kankuro looked up, the gazes resolutely on the ground. Ni-san, he called softly, uncertainly. He couldn't even recall the last time he'd addressed them as such. Both of the gazes shot up to meet his shock, and was that relief written across their features. Gaara, Temari called cautiously. He stepped closer and tried to ignore the way his brother tensed at his approach. Let's go home. Temari blinked at him, her green eyes widening a bit. We can go. Just like that. Hi. He nodded. I brought you back, so Gaara would not have to be alone on the way home. Naruto spoke suddenly, drawing his siblings' attention to him. Now that it's proved that Orochimaru had a hand in this, you may go home freely. Also, there will be some sanctions on Suna from Hai no Kuni, for the damage inflicted during the fighting. And what are those sanctions? Kankuro asked suspiciously, his eyes narrowing on the blonde. Gaara frowned a bit. The two Konoha shinobi were as much his family now, as Kankuro and Temari. Kankuro, could you please be nice? It's thanks to those two, that we can go home. And that I can live a normal life, starting today. Both of his siblings looked at him in shock. What? Temari asked. Naruto and his family fixed Shukaku's seal, so it's better now. I'm even able to sleep, he smiled. What did you? Nothing, Temari-san. Sasuke spoke. We just helped someone in need. That thing was so crappy, that even I could do better, and I'm half as good as Naruto, when it comes to seals, and let's not mention the other members of his family, currently roaming our streets. He's able to sleep, like everyone, and regulate when he needs the Bijuu's chakra. How much he learns to handle in the future, is up to how well he and Shukaku can work together. Gaara smiled at the two. Thank you for the help. Naruto grinned and walked closer. Think nothing of it. We're brothers, remember? Yeah. He nodded. Naruto reached into an inside pocket of his haori and offered something. Gaara blinked and took it. It was Asmal's circular wooden charm with the kanji fortration one side, while the other had a kanji for support. Carry this with you. If you need us to find you, because you need help, push some chakra into this, so that Thetrace kanji will glow. If you're in bigger trouble, than you think I could handle without my own Bijuu's aid, then push more chakra into it and both of the kanji will glow. We'll be able to find you and we'll know it's also big trouble. He took the charm and secured it around his neck. Arigato, Naruto, he muttered. It was still hard to believe that those two were no also his family. His friends and his family. Hard to believe that no matter what, he could count on these two amazing people backing him. Think nothing of it, the blonde smiled. If you feel like chatting, ask Shukaku to establish a link between him and the fox. We can speak there. But, since the distance is bigger and since you will be inside your seal, perhaps it would be best at night. If you're troubled, he glanced at Sasuke, we don't mind losing a few hours of sleep. Sasuke smirked. Just don't do it more than twice a week, or we'll never be able to drag him out of bed and we need to train. Oi. Nisama, are you saying I'm lazy? Naruto cried indignantly, giving the older Amic glare. I'll let you know I'm not. I just like how warm and comfortable my bed is. Sasuke rolled his eyes. Whatever makes you sleep at night, Ototo. They didn't change one bit, from when we were younger. Shukaku said amusedly. Save for perhaps Indra actually spending time with Asura-kun. And generally making an effort for us to be a family. Gaara hummed amusedly at the tanuki. If I didn't know how powerful and serious they were most of the time, I would say they weren't even the Sennin's sons. They are not his sons. Shukaku said. Yet at the same time, they are very much his sons. Gaara cleared his throat to get their attention. He hoped that one day, he would be this close to Temari and Kankuro. That one day, despite what happened in the past, they could be a real family. Both of them looked at him, their faces smoothing into pleasant calmness. Sasuke nodded towards the door, as he pushed himself away from the wall. Come on, we'll escort you three out. The village leadership's terms on peace with Suna may make it to you in a month or so. Gaara nodded. We'll be sure to tell that to our council. It was on the urging of Ino, that Sarutobi Asuma wandered into training ground 4 followed by his genin, which Team 13 had claimed for themselves. Considering how close the place was to the Senju compound, it made sense that Kakashi had chosen this place, or at least, would have made sense. However, Naruto didn't live in the Senju compound, so it was pointless. Asuma was left wondering why Kakashi had chosen the place. Not that it mattered much. Training ground 4 was where Team 13 could always be found, and today was no different. The team was there, like always, well, 3 of them. Yamato was missing, but Asuma was sure it was because they had their hands full with straightening out the village. It was lucky that in the end, Orochimaru's plan to use the 3 Hokage had failed. And now, even if temporarily the 3 legendary shinobi were in the village to whip it into shape. It eased Asuma's mind somewhat. The village without Hokage was dangerous, politically. Of course, they would need an actual godime soon, but with the 3D Legends back form behind the gates of death, could also be a solution. Nadaime Sama and Yondaime Sama were bussing themselves with setting the village straight, although he hadn't seen the Shodai anywhere. He wondered where the true Kami no Shinobi had gone off to. Another part of him was curious, why the Yondaime wasn't with Naruto. Ah, hello Asuma. Asuma nodded. Kakashi. Sasuke-kun. Ino called, her voice unnaturally shrill, immediately jumping on the Uchiha. The Uchiha dodged Ino expertly and stood to his full height. As he stood, the first thing that flashed into Asuma's mind, when he saw the Uchiha wasregal. Don't do that again, Ino-san. You try something like that again, or will be forced to use force to make sure you keep a respectable distance. Ino drew up short at that and Asuma saw her eyes widen. However, before she could say something, they were disturbed by a loud crack. Sasuke immediately changed positions, standing next to Kakashi. Then, Naruto burst forth from the trees, followed by the Shodime. Mokuton, Mokusatsu Shibari no Jutsu. Wood release, smothering binding technique, the Shodime called, as his hands transformed into wood, shooting towards Naruto. Naruto jumped upwards and flared his chakra. Mokuton, Sennohanaha. Wood release, thousand flower blades. The countless tiny, orange, flowers that formed around Naruto all shot towards the Hokage. The man avoided by using Doton to hide under the ground. Naruto landed on the ground with a sigh, but Asuma could see he was not calm. Hashirama burst from the earth and Naruto leapt away doing a set of seals. Mokuton, Abara no Arare. Wood release, hail of thorns. The Shodime stopped and his chakra flared in response. Mokuton, Mokujoheiki. Wood release, wood locking wall. The wall of wood rose before the man, arching slightly over him, to stop the great thorns. Even before the man could step away from the safety of his creation, Naruto appeared next to him with Ashunshin and swung. The Hokage dodged the punch, which, Asuma decided might have been the sensible idea. The chakra-enhanced blow cracked the wood, after all. Oh, the kid certainly knows how to pack a punch. The Hokage smiled and retaliated with a series of fast strikes, and from what Asuma knew, he was aiming his open-palmed attacks at medically important points. Naruto dodged two of the rapid attacks, but the third one hit him and he staggered back with a grunt, and then in his attempt to backtrack, he lost his balance, falling on his back. The Shodime stopped above the blonde, both of his hands in an open-palmed position, similar to how a Hyuga held them. The blonde groaned. Damn you, Oji-san. That's a win for ya. The Shodime chuckled and helped up the blonde. But you're fast, Naruto-kun. Creative and skilled, when using your abilities, as well as your surroundings. Considering that your body is still developing, all your skills are top-notch. The blonde dipped his head modestly. Arigato. I was hoping you'd teach me some extra chakra control and medical jutsu. As the two walked towards them, Asuma watched. He'd heard that Naruto was the Shodai's great-grandnephew, but it was just a fact on paper. Something he knew and accepted as part of life. Now that the man was here, even if for habit, obviously training the blonde, it was different. Gladly, as the two combatants' gazes shifted, Asuma bowed, followed by his students. Shodime-sama. The man nodded with a smile. Good day. My turn. Sasuke spoke suddenly, calmness personified. That is, if you don't mind. The Hokage grinned. The grin vaguely reminded Asuma of Naruto himself. Not at all. I heard from Tobi and Minato, that you have some special fire. I would like to see it, if you don't mind, Sasuke. The Uchiha grinned. Those flames were made to counter Mokuton, with the least possible chakra consumption from the user, so careful what you wish for, Hokage-sama. Asuma gaped and his cigarette fell. That was a warning. A Genin was warning a Hokage. And he didn't sound arrogant or overconfident at all. Well, all the more reason for me to see them. The Hokage took his stain. Asuma saw as Sasuke's eyes bled into the Sharingan, and then the Uchiha took that unfamiliar stance he had been using all through the Chunin exams. And then, hell broke loose. Sasuke cursed, as the Shodai's blow sent him flying. If there was something, which he had learned over time, it was that no senju should be engaged in taijutsu. Useless, the individual wanted to collect several broken bones. His brother had learned chakra-enhanced strength slower than he had in the past, but in the end, said skill had become the base of his personal style. Now it seemed, it was Akuman occurrence for Senju, or occasionally Uzumaki, to learn it, after they mastered chakra control. The Shodai was no different. And gods be good, the man surely hit just as hard as Ashura had. His back hit Atri and every last wisp of oxygen left his system. Someone shrieked in the distance, but he could care less. He just wanted to breathe properly again. After a few hard moments, it was easier, but his back still ached. Oh, Gumen Sasuke, the Shodai said, as the man stopped above him. It seems I had miscalculated very badly. Let me. You did not miscalculate, Sasuke murmured. He didn't even protest, as green medical chakra covered the man's hand. I was slow. Since I know how you fight, like Naruto. Usually use chakra to reinforce my body, just before the blow connects. As it is, I am not as fast, as I had once been. That's why both of us need training. And we'll help the most we can, the Shodai assured him. We will not let the world be destroyed. Short as it may be, this is our chance to aid you and we will. Once the medical chakra faded, Hashirama helped him stand and Sasuke didn't even protest. Ni-sama, are you? Sasuke huffed, looking at the blonde, who was approaching with Kakashi and Team 10 in tow. Relax Ototo, it's just a notch worse than your own punches. Besides, he's healed the worst of it. But, Inidabrik, he sighed. I don't have your inhuman stamina and reserves. The difference is not that bad between the two of you, the Shodai said. Sasuke rolled his eyes. You're trying to convince the wrong person. I know that the stronger body and denser chakra he has gives him enough energy to run, say 5 laps, if with all a have, a rune 4. Considering his condition and the fact that his mother had shared said condition, that gives him stamina to run 2 more figurative laps. The Shodai scratched the back of his neck. Gamen, I seem to have forgotten you're much more aware than others. Sasuke almost rolled his eyes at the veiled about the reincarnation. No matter. So, mind teaching me some of the medical arts? His brother asked, his violet eyes shining with excitement. Of course not, Naruto-kun. Come on. Sasuke was just about done with his break, when he felt his sensory tingle. As he looked up he saw the Nadai and Naruto's father. He nodded towards them in greeting. The blonde raised an eyebrow. Relaxing already? Sasuke shrugged. I don't have that inhuman stamina that Uzumaki and Senju possess. My chakra is different. Besides, there's as much value in training, as in resting. Well said, the Nadai nodded sagely. Where is Hashirama? He's off teaching Ototo medical jutsu as Abrik. Naruto. As a medic. Minato murmured. Odd to think about it, even if I know what Ido now. Sasuke hummed. It comes in handy. I would think so. Sasuke studied the 2 Senju for a moment and summoning popped into his mind. Would you 2 mind teaching me some fuinjutsu? I know the absolute, daily basics, but not more. Which is a bit bothersome, considering my brother's half Uzumaki. I'd never be able to beat him, when it comes to that field. The Shinju knows he's the most creative person on the planet, but it would be nice not OD from SEALs, if he's not there to pull me out of a tight spot. Grandson and grandfather shared a look, before the Nadaim's dark red eyes settled on him. To start off, how much do you already know? Well, Ni, Oto-san. Naruto called, as they approached. He noticed Kakashi speaking with Asuma, while the Sarutobi students were working on chakra control and some theory, if the scrolls in front of them were any indication. He was walking calmly next to the Shodai, completely spent. Who knew medical training could be so tiresome? Sasuke was sitting on the grass, flanked by his father and great-grandfather. Judging from the scrolls and brushes all around them, the 2 former Kage were teaching his brother seals. Odd. He would have never thought Sasuke would learn more than the absolute necessary. Everyone froze in what they were doing, looking at him, Team 10 and Kakashi included. The 3 other members of his family all looked up from the scrolls, Sasuke's hand freezing mid-stroke. Ni-sama, are you? Is that a sealing brush in your hand? Sasuke shrugged. Got to learn so much more of it than the basics. This seemed the good time for it. I needed a break from physical training, but that does not mean I cannot pay attention to detail. Besides, it would have been foolish of me to pass up the opportunity to learn it, when I have the 2 best mazes of said art right here. No. Naruto hummed. Yeah, of course. Hope you're having fun. He grinned. Sasuke scowled back. Oh. Wipe that look off your face, Ototo. You know this sort of thing was always hard for me. Well, at least something. Because you were always the proper perfect one, he grunted back. I just had enough. Boys. His father called, tone lightly reprimanding. No need for that. What is it you wanted, Naru-kun? Naruto hummed. Well, you see Oto-san. Naruto. His father see him off again, a rather sulky look on his face. Well, sulky if you asked Naruto. The younger blonde was sure that his father would deny ever making such a childish face. Naruto blinked, looking at his father in confusion. What? Kakashi snickered off to the side. He hates formality, Naruto. Don't you, Hokage-sama? His father looked at his former student and rolled his eyes. Oh, quiet no, Kakashi. I may technically be D, but I can still hand your ass to you in Aspar. Obito's Sharingan in use or not. Naruto glanced to the side and saw Kakashi's lone eye widened a bit, before he threw up his hands in surrender and took a few steps back. Gomen, sensei, he said, his eye crinkling into an upside-down U, with the most innocent look on his features possible with so much of his face covered. Naruto heard Sasuke mutter a coward from where his brother sat next to the Nadaime. Did you say something, Sasuke? His father asked. Naruto threw a worried look at his brother. Sasuke, ever composed as he was, matched the blue eyes. Nothing, Minato-sama, he answered simply. Naruto saw his father twitch. Then he turned away from Sasuke with a huff. All right, son. What is it you were trying to say? Naruto took a deep breath. Well, you see Oto-san. His father's eyes narrowed and a wave of intent spread through the area. Naruto. Sasuke. Kakashi called. Both of them looked up. Hi, Kashi-sensei. Naruto didn't ask questions. He did, as Kakashi told him to, Sasuke hot on his heels. Sadly for them, Minato was one of the two people who were called the fastest shinobi while they were alive. Naruto and Sasuke had the weirdest family she'd ever seen, Ino decided. She'd been observing the boys for a while now, and since the 3D Hokage were back, she saw a completely new side of her two former classmates. No, their family wasn't odd, because they were D. It was something else. Like how the two of them, not related by B, treated and loved each other, like siblings. Hell, she had twin cousins on her father's side, both of them boys, and they were not even quarter as good at being siblings, as Sasuke and Naruto. They were always together, helping and supporting the other, no matter what. Their love for each other, as well as their friendship, was clear to see for anyone who stopped just for a moment. Bright, sunny Naruto and quiet, antisocial Sasuke, they made the oddest pair. A pair who worked flawlessly together. They teased each other, hugged each other, laughed and cried with each other. They never argued, like others in a family. Sure, there were times when they didn't agree, but after a short scowling match, they would always discuss it sensibly, like grown-ups. It was kind of strange how mature they were. Still, despite it all, they were formal with one another, to such a level that Stangers would think it abnormal. Actually, it wasn't normal, but it still fit with their personalities in an odd way. She also noticed how formal they were with the three Hokage. At first, she thought it was because the three were Hokage, but then she had to reconsider. One morning she caught them, well, Naruto, Sasuke and Yondaime-sama, eating at Ichiraku Ramen. Minato-sama, Sasuke called. She was close, but she tried being sneaky. It would be a pain to explain why she was listening in on a private conversation. Sasuke-kun, for the 100th time. Kushina was your godmother. You're practically my family, Senju and Uchiha be aside. Or because of it, whatever. You understand what I mean, right? She heard Sasuke snort. Of course. Well, point is, no need to be formal, she heard Yondaime-sama say. Her eyes were wide. She'd asked her father about Naruto's mother. Both of her parents spoke highly of the princess of Azu. A Hireisen clan head in her own right, one of the D Kunoichi of Konoha. S-ranked, just like her husband. Naruto's family was full of D people. Those she knew of were all cage-level shinobi. That D Kunoichi was Sasuke's godmother. Habit. Sasuke muttered. You know, when eyes like my father's follow you everywhere, you learn to be proper. It reflects on the clan. And it was different then. I see. Ino's eyes were wide. She thought Sasuke didn't like speaking about his parents. So why was he mentioning his father now? And, his father had told her, that some clans were stricter with traditions, of course. But she thought the Hyuga were the only ones like that, so strict, in Konoha. Sasuke-kun's family had been like that too. So strict and cold. No wonder he was the way he was. No wonder he was so close to Naruto. Maybe it was Naruto, who showed him, that he could let go of those traditions, while still remembering his family. Poor Sasuke-kun. Hope Naruto will make sure he's okay in the future, too, she thought. Is that why Naruto's like that too? The Yondaime asked. So formal. Sasuke hummed. Partially. It reflects on the people he gets associated with. But, it's more respect, from him. Actual respect. And you know, from me too. Old habits are hard to but. Ino blinked. She thought Naruto had lived alone. Had he been taken in by the Uchihas for a short while before they all died? Naruto had certainly made an effort during the academy to spend time with Sasuke, even if Sasuke had seemed unsure at first. However, it hadn't escaped her, that the boys had become much closer after the massacre. You would try to hold those habits back, if you thought differently of the people you're speaking to, the Yondaime said. Yes. I still remember that one time, there was this kid, who'd picked on Ototo. Ino shook her head and slipped away. Naruto and Sasuke were the odd ones she would never understand. They loved each other like siblings, yet were formal, archaic, aristocratic. If she didn't know any better, she would have said their minds had made a stop at the warring clans era, or something, before they were born. You know, you're the oddest family ever. Kurama commented, as Naruto was sprawled on the ground, trying to catch his breath from training. Gods knew his great-grandfather was S-driver. A sort that probably hadn't been since, in Konoha. He was completely spent, his limbs felt like rocks, which was something, considering all his usual energy and physical endurance. Why would you say that? Well, Tenzo, Kakashi, 3D Hokage, who are temporary here to train you, just plain weird. Even for me. Naruto snorted. Oh. Quiet now, Kurama. Besides, you're also part of this weird family, so don't leave it from the list either. Are you ready for another spar, Naruto? Naruto groaned as he sat up to face his father. Gods damn him, his father was fast and precise. It was like fighting Indra all over again, save for perhaps his father being even faster and not having a Sharingan to pull nasty tricks with. Your S-driver, just like Tobirama Oji-san. His father rolled his eyes. Well, excuse me, Naruto, but it's not me who has a Kakra goddess for grandmother, who by the way, wants to take over the world. His father snarked. Naruto growled. You know, sometimes I regret we ever told you all of that. Even before his father had a chance to respond, he leapt forwards, wooden staves forming in his hand, ready to deliver blows. Senju Hashirama was an odd man, Sasuke decided. Even more odd than his brother, which was a feat, considering Asura's nature and his quirks. But despite his odd nature, the man was a very good sparring partner and teacher, and somewhere along the way, the more time he spent around the three resurrected Senju, the more he felt like he had a family again. After the initial shock of their revelations passed, the three Hokage had decided to stick around a bit longer, to help deal with the mess inside the village, while helping them train. Sasuke would have thought that Hashirama would break down, when they revealed that one of the mad Uchihas, who wanted to rule the world with the help of the non-human grandmother, was Madara. Madara had, after all, been the Shodai's friend. The man hadn't been happy of what had become of his former friend, but it had the opposite result. Hours after that heavy conversation, the Mokuton user sought him out and told him that the three of them had decided to stay abbot, to help him and Naruto train. Between the mad training supervised by the three Hokage and their senseis, Sasuke could not focus on anything else, but Thano. He got to spend some time with the Yondaime, who, by now was like an uncle, father. Even the Nadai had eased up and it was nice. It was like he had his family back, together as a whole. Yamato and Kakashi were the slightly unhinged, lazy and completely unnecessarily overprotective cousins. The Yondaime had become a sort of father to him, too. There was Naruto, of course, his energetic, Torubal magnet baby brother. The Shodai was the overly cheerful, idiotic uncle with random bouts of wisdom, which Sasuke thought rivaled his father from his first life. The Nadai was the slightly detached, serious uncle, who was a good listener and had an unexpected penchant for pranking. No, that paint incident, which involved the Nadai, his brother and his freshly washed clothes, will never be spoken of again. Anyone who so much as mentioned the words Nadaim and paint in the same sentence near him, he would burn with Amaterasu without an ounce of remorse. So yes, life was nice, even if it only lasted for Abbott. They were an odd family, misfits and warriors, balken by the cruelty of war, weightened by mistakes, but they understood each other. They had forgiven past grievances and were working towards something better. For the first time in ages, Sasuke thought the people that surrounded him reminded him of the warm comfort, which the Otsutsuki had been, while him and Ashura were growing up. Going back to his old house, after having abandoned it so long ago was strange. But for some reason, the three Kage wanted to see it. So Sasuke didn't protest too much. He had little attachment to the place by now, and even if he happened to have a nightmare tonight, his brother would not say a word. Alter, he honestly hoped he wouldn't have nightmares. After the wave incident, he had finally gotten rid of the last of the shadows that haunted him. He didn't need them coming back. As they entered the house, he waved at the three men. Feel free to have a look around. The little I had needed from his has long since been moved to the Namika's house. Thank you, Sasuke, the Yondaime said quietly, as the three Senju walked deeper into the building. A hand touched his shoulder and he looked at Naruto, who was looking at him with worry. Are you alright, Ni-sama? Or should we wait outside? Sasuke took a deep breath, tampering down the dark, memories. A part of him detested that night, another part was grateful that Itachi had caught him in the genjutsu. He wondered if the cycle of war between Senju and Uchiha would have been broken, if him and Naruto didn't remember. Somehow, he doubted it, and that would have inevitably doomed the world to destruction and No, Ototo, I'm fine. In fact, I want to check around too. Naruto arched an eyebrow. What are you hoping to find? Sasuke shook his head. I don't know. Just, let's look around. He had expected many things, really he would have expected to find anything, but here he sat, in the middle of the Spartan room, more neat and Spartan, than the rest of the house, that is. Here he sat, on the cold floor of the room, which had once belonged to Itachi, with a part of the floor missing, a small leather-bound book in his lap, open at the last 2 pages, that still had an entry. It was Itachi's journal. A journal he had never known even existed. One, which would not have been found, if Naruto wasn't so hopelessly clumsy, to K the floor just because that floorboard had been loose. And the last 2 pages, splattered with dried made his own freeze in shock, while it also sent howling rage trough him. Itachi's usually neat, perfect letters were unsteady and hurried. Danzo wants me to K the clan, so Sasuke can live, but Danzo K Shisui. It can't trust him, but it can't risk Sasuke's safety either. And the masked man. Oh, Kami, forgive me for the coming nights. This is as much for Konoha, as much it's for Sasuke. Itachi had been forced into K the clan. Itachi hadn't fallen to the curse. No, quite the opposite. Itachi. Naruto gripped his arm in reassurance, the dense, warm chakra wrapping him in a protective blanket, as if his brother hoped to ward off his rage and grief. He wanted to cry and howl and burn something, but he just squeezed his eyes shut and clung to Naruto's comforting presence. He had lost it once and it had led to ages-long war. He would not lose it again. Sasuke. Naruto. The careful call of the Yondaime jolted him from his thoughts. Sasuke needed a moment to gather himself and close the journal. Then, he stood up, clinging to Naruto for support, because if Naruto left him now. No, don't think about that. He's not going anywhere. He looked at the older blonde. What is it? He asked, doing his best to remain composed. Minato looked at him sorrowfully, as he made a gesture towards the sitting room. May we have our word? Aye. It's important. He nodded and walked towards the sitting room, the Hokage following behind him. Naruto's grip didn't falter for a second, his chakra a constant presence, filling his senses. For once, Sasuke was grateful. The overwhelming presence of his friend's brother's chakra was the only thing that kept him grounded at the moment. The writing still floated menacingly in front of his mind's wants me to K the clan, so Sasuke can live. He sat down, Naruto next to him. Minato walked to sit opposite them. The Shodaime sat in the middle, flanked by his brother and grandnephew. He held a small stack of papers. Sasuke, what we have to say will be hard, the Mokuton user started softly. We found these. I have a feeling it might have been left there intentionally for you to find someday. He slid the papers over. Sasuke took the sheets and read them. His eyes went wide. He tore at the page, wanting to see. This had to be some joke. His clan had wanted to take over the village and cause a civil war. Another page tossed to the side. The doent went into more detail about how the clan would have taken over, using Thekubi Jinchuriki to secure their power. Sasuke tossed the pile down and wrenched himself out of his brother's grip, bolting for the bathroom. He was sick. His clan would have ruined the village that had been built, using his siblings, just like Madara and the nameless masked moron. He had honestly hoped that only Madara and the masked bastard were so sick to attempt utter and complete domination, but no. All his kin had been like that. By the time Naruto arrived, he was merely dry having his head still spinning. Carefully, Naruto's arms wrapped around him and he felt the soothing warmth of medical chakra seep into his body. Ni-sama, the blonde whispered. What have we done? He choked out. We doomed the world, Ototo. It doomed my kin to fall, for they carried and nurtured the hate that I had once felt for you and Oto-sama. Now those lunatics are out there somewhere, planning to rule the world with the power of 4 siblings. We'll stop them. We know what not to do now and we'll do better this time around. Sasuke sallowed and his mind flashed back to Itachi. Itachi, whom he hated and pitied in equal measure for falling to the curse. But he hadn't fallen. They ordered him to kill the clan. He chose me over the clan. That realization was heavier than most of the things he carried with him since his past life. Naruto gently tugged at his sleeve and led him back into the sitting room, where the other Senju were waiting. They ordered him to do it, he murmured, numb yet angry at the same time. Who ordered what? The Shodai asked. Itachi was ordered to kill them to prevent the mess, which you found outlined on the doents, he clarified. A man named Danzo K, my cousin, Shisui, he had the Mangekyo. Then he blackmailed Itachi. K the clan or Danzo would have K me, I presume. Itachi wrote that he does what he did, so I can live. An hour later 4 Senjuan and Uchiha were on the war path, striding towards the council chambers, chakra and K intent radiating from all of them to such extent that the civilians, whom they passed, fell to their knees. When they reached the destination, Naruto released a blast-off wind chakra, which opened the doors so forcefully that the heavy Mokuton created wood almost came off its hinges. As they strode in, the council looked up. Hokage-sama, one of the civilians asked. Civilians out. Minato snarled. This is purely clan business. And close the doors behind yourselves. Feeling the anger and be radiating from the group, all the present civilians quickly scattered, closing the doors. What is the meaning of this, Hokage-sama? Aberrane Shibi asked. 5D stares settled on a certain bandaged war hawk. Shimura Danzo, you are charged with treason and the orchestrating of genocide. Minato said coldly. Danzo's visible eye settled on the older blonde. I have no idea on what grounds are you accusing me. On the grounds of a journal entry, written and dated by Uchiha Itachi. Sasuke hissed. You blackmailed him, K the clan, or you will hurt me. Itachi chose me over the clan. The clan may have betrayed the village, but you K my cousin for his eye and you blackmailed Itachi. And, what is that? Tobirama asked coldly. Even before anyone could wonder why the silver-haired Kage asked that, a whip of water materialized, dragging the man from his seat and see the bandage covering his arm. Under the bandages, they found countless Sharingan eyes peering out at the world. Sasuke wasn't even surprised, when suddenly, the room was full of powerful K intent, as Kurama's chakra covered Naruto in seconds. The clan head seemed to have problem withstanding his Biju brother's chakra presence, but it was no surprise. The Shodaime immediately formed a snake sign. Hold your chakra, Senju. Kurama snarled. I have no business with your village. He also noticed Jiraiya, moving to a more visible spot, but as Kurama spoke, he stopped. Sasuke gave a look to the Shodaime and the man stopped, eyeing the Kurama-controlled Naruto warily. Every single person's eyes in the room went wide, as they heard those words. However, the fox snarled, his eyes settling on Danzo. I have business with you, detestable meatbag. He darted closer and Danzo froze. You know, I never liked the Uchihas, too arrogant, that lot. And I came to detest them after Madara thought it was his personal pet, dancing how he pulled the strings, he growled, and let's not mention the who'd wretched me from Kushina. But there's one, just own Sharingan wielder on this sorry planet, that absolutely did not deserve my creator's sacrifice, whom I do not hate. And you just happened to tread on that one, the one I care about. Even more eyes went wide, mostly among the clan heads, at those words. You tread on my Ototo. Kurama snarled again, his chakra lashing out, and Sasuke had backpedaled to push back the cage, so all of them would avoid the chakra. That energy, as it was at the moment, could melt flesh from bone or perhaps even cancel Edo Tensei, which didn't seem such a good thing at the moment. Naruto would be upset that the thing had been cancelled, while he sat back inside his own mind, to allow Kurama some freedom. And for that, you will pay. For no one treadens my younger siblings and walks away, and then he pounced. Sasuke saw the man uncover his face, and there was his cousin's Mangekyo, in his eye socket. But Kurama was faster. A clawed hand paw across the bastard's face, the red chakra burning the wound, as B splashed around. Danzo cried out, but it was quickly silenced by another swipe across the man's throat, as the vocal cords were damaged. Kurama channeled some more of his chakra and brought down his hand, paw on the man, breaking bone, as well as the floor below. The elder's mouth opened in a soundless scream and Kurama snarled again. May the Shinigami torment you forever, he spat, as his chakra covered Danzo's body. It did a quick work. 4 taels worth of chakra was more enough to burn away a body, especially one with no previous exposure to such chakra. Kurama backed away, 4 chakra tails waving in the air, the room full with the smell of bee and burning flesh, as well as K intent. Sasuke's eyes didn't even twitch. The bastard deserved that, for the innocent of his clan, because the children were not yet tainted by the curse, nor the few civilians, who never had the Sharingan, and for Itachi. He'd K his kin and threatened Itachi. For Avery, very long moment, there was silence as everyone stared at Kurama, waiting for him to attack once more. I know you like to finish your own business, Indra, but it promised you and Ashura something that day. Or more like I've promised it to Oto-sama, he may or may not have heard that, but it's beside the point. Sasuke hummed. It's quite alright. I would have done the same, if Ototo was in a similar situation, alter, he's not, the vengeful sort. Never been, he muttered, his voice cracking at the end. No, he's not. Kurama agreed, now somewhat calmer, alter Sasuke knew he would not calm down completely today. Maybe tomorrow, but certainly not today. Sasuke sighed and allowed his eyes to morph into their higher level. He couldn't form Susanoo just yet, but he could summon the armor and fit it to his need. The less of the armor was present, the more he could control it. Besides, he'd been practicing some shape manipulation, which also further enabled him to handle it. Sure, to completely shrink his chakra avatar and make actual, human-sized armor out of it, that perfectly covered his body, he would need his father's special chakra, but it didn't matter. He stroked Kurama's ear, which appeared in the shape of half-transparent chakra, before he actually reached to touch Naruto's body. Thank you, he muttered softly. Now, could you let Ototo have his body back, please? Kurama huffed. And here I thought I could stretch my limbs. It's better since you two had redone the seal, but it's so boring. Sasuke chuckled. Oh, what's next? Snowing in the middle of summer. You actually whined. I'm sure Ashura wouldn't mind letting you out in the forest of death, now and then, as long as you don't ruin everything. Because then we would have to fix it and it's annoying to do all the time. Kurama snarled. All proper and serious even after all this time. Now, I know why I left you to your devices, Azakit. Sasuke rolled his eyes. Someone has to be the responsible one, between your penchant for destruction and Ototo's pranks. Hey, I hadn't destroyed anything since Senju stuck me in the seal again. Besides, as annoying as Kushina was. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. Careful, Fox. You're talking about my godmother. Shawasaniing, he huffed. But, better than Mito, Sarisups, it was an improvement. Yeah, you would have liked to tamper on Madara's body and probably wouldn't have minded sallowing Shodime-sama whole, they're still family so no more of that. Oh, and I want my brother back. I'm sure if you make him wait any more, he's going to get whiny and just tamper down your chakra with Mokuton. The fox huffed. Why did the source of all chakra have to be Atri? And why did Ashura figure it out what that chakra can do? Before Sasuke could answer, Kurama's, Naruto's eyes closed. The chakra slowly retreated, and as Naruto opened his eyes again, they were the usual violet. He stood up and looked at the mess Kurama had left. Ouch. Speak about being pissed off, Kitsune. Sasuke hummed. Yeah. Naruto frowned. Oh, the Shinju, damn it, now all my clothes are ruined. Ah. He groaned. He should have been cleaner. The next time he makes a mess, I'm totally not letting him stretch his legs. Sasuke hummed. And you would just have listened to him annoying you out of your own mind, if you didn't let him out now, Ototo. You know what he's like. Naruto laughed softly. I know better than anyone here, trust me. Sasuke rolled his eyes. Off with you. You're not getting dinner, if you make a mess of the kitchen. Naruto rolled his eyes. Last time it checked, Nisama, it's me kitchen, because you can't cook s. So you don't get Azzy in it, and then he was gone in a swirl of leaves. Sasuke huffed and looked at the three Senju. Did Iva say a hatted that he has a quick tongue? No, Hashirama said. But, if it makes you feel better, I think that's a typical Uzumaki trait, like the red hair. Or, maybe even more of a typical trait, than the red hair. Sasuke snorted. Why, I'm not surprised about that. Maybe because you know him so well, his almost father said. Now, how about you follow his example and go home, Sasuke? We'll deal with this and stop at home once we're done. Sasuke's eyes narrowed on the two remaining elders, who tensed in response, at the feeling of his intent. Good, let them be wary, because he would watch them. Let them remember, that even if the Hokage were gone, they could not do as they pleased. Not anymore, useless they wanted to be as painfully, as the warmongering worm on the floor. Ah, but I still have a few questions. And we'll provide you with the answers. Tobirama counted in a measured tone. Do not stir more of the water, young one. We will give you what you wish to know, if you let us work. Sasuke sighed, nodding towards the Suiten master. Very well. And then, he was gone in his own personalized shunshin, a torrent of white-blue fire. Jiraiya's mind still swirled with the scene that had played out in the council chambers. He would have never thought that Minato, or the Senju brothers would let the fox do what it did. He had never liked Danzo, but that had been brutal. And why had the fox called the Uchiha Bratendra? The name was familiar from somewhere, but he could not remember where he had heard it before. Because it was obvious, from the way Naruto had looked at the scene, that he had completely retreated into his mind, unaware of the outside world. He shook his head with a sigh. It's not like he could do anything about it. Jiraiya-sensei. Jiraiya froze at that. He hadn't been Khaled-sensei in more than a decade. There was only one person in the village who'd called him that. His two other students had died in the war, and only Minato had made it. He turned slowly to face Minato. It was so strange seeing him again. If not for the obvious telltale signs of Edo Tensei, he would have said that his student was still as young and full of energy as the last day he'd seen him, a few days before Naruto's birth. He was happy to see Minato again, yet he could not help the scratching look that crossed his aged features. What were you thinking, Minato? You should have stopped the kid from losing control. Minato glared. His glare was so icy that it made him take a step back. He had not lost control. He knew what he was doing, and Danzo had deserved it. As much as I expected Hiruzen, he was getting lax in his office and obviously had made the wrong decisions regarding Uchiha Itachi and the clan, as a whole, he hissed in a low tone. The Sanin's eyes went wide. That was an S-class secret, of which only the Hokage, the elders and himself knew. Had one of the two spilled the beans to the three resurrected men? Probably, not that Jiraiya blamed him too much. After that scene in the council room, Jiraiya sighed. It was a total mess. Minato and Fugaku would not listen. Or rather, his clan council would not. I don't need to know more than I already do. Genocide is genocide, no matter the reason. You could have at least let the children and the civilians live. But no, he sighed. Where is Itachi, Jiraiya? Minato. Where is the boy? Jiraiya winced. His former student wasn't in a good mood. There's this group, he said quietly, Akatsuki. A bunch of S-class missing nin from all across the nations. They're led by a masked Sharingan user, who'd helped Itachi K the Uchihas. Itachi suspects he's the one behind the Fox's attack 13 years ago. He calls himself Toby. We sent Itachi to join undercover, so he could feed us info about them. Minato's eyes went wide for a second, as if he came to a realization, before the expression was gone. Do you know something, Minato? Maybe something you had no chance to share that night? He asked. Any morsel on the masked bastard could help. Minato shook his head. When you asked him, he said his name was Uchiha Madara. But, I'd bet all my savings, that both Toby and Uchiha Madara are just false names. The guy is someone else, powerful and dangerous yes, but not Madara. I mentioned my fight with him to the Shodai. He said Madara's Mangekyo didn't possess space-time jutsu. So, it was someone, who has enough skill and power to get away with calling himself the ghost of the Uchiha. The Toad summoner grunted. They weren't any closer. Yet a guy was dangerous. More than simply dangerous, if he could control the fox even with one eye. I'll remember that, he said. Then he looked at his student. Minato's eyes were still as cold, as before. You know why I'm here. It was not a question. The Sannin couldn't help, but wince. Minato look. You're his godfather, damn it. He growled. It trusted you. The Sannin sighed. I know and I'm sorry. Just let me expel. No. Minato see him off in a measured tone. I know enough from Kakashi and Naruto. I also made up with Naruto, but that's only because his heart is one of mercy. I know, he muttered, looking away for a moment. I will not say any more on the subject Jiraiya. We all make our own decisions. But if you ever make him cry again, the way I heard from Sasuke, that you had, I promise you that I will find a way back from death without Edo Tensei and then, I'll drag you with me. Then, his student was gone in a flash of yellow and Jiraiya was left alone, to reflect on the mistakes he'd made. If he ever wanted Naruto to trust him, even a bit, he had a lot of making up to do. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.